The first way to identify if your depth is too much is if all your clients get a lot of plasma or lymph oozing during the procedure. It can happen in 2 out of 5 clients or 3 out of 10 clients, but it cannot happen to every client that you're seeing the oozing of watery fluids on the brows. That's an indication of a lot of trauma, and your depth could be the reason why so much trauma is getting created, leading your clients to ooze a lot of lymph. The second way to identify if your depth is too much, especially in the case of microblading, is the depth of strokes. When you're done with first or even second round of microblading, try to stretch the strokes. If the strokes are opening way too much, in a way that the skin is completely opening left and right and you are able to see through the strokes, and it's happening to a lot of strokes, like about 5 to 6 of the strokes, then probably your depth is too much. The skin should not open so much. In the case of ombre brows, you can identify that the depth is too much if you're not able to see any pixels. If you're working at a depth which is more than the required or the right depth, you would be creating or depositing pigment in the skin without the pixelated shaded effect. You know what's the pixelated effect I'm talking about. The beautiful pixels, the beautiful shading you see after you wipe the brows. A very important difference between tattooing, the normal tattooing, traditional tattooing, and cosmetic tattooing like our work, ombre brows, which is called cosmetic tattooing, is of depth. If your depth is more than the right amount, then you'll not be creating work that looks natural. And that's why most people don't want their brows to look tattooed. When people say that I don't want a tattooed look, do you guys do tattoo? What they mean is actually, along with the right pigment, also the right depth and right technique. There is a very fine line between tattooing someone's brows and creating the right technique ombre brows. There are a lot of people who think that they have learned permanent makeup and they're doing ombre brows, but they might be using permanent makeup pigment, may not be using tattooed inks, but their technique is so wrong that their results actually end up looking like a tattoo. And the last way to find out if your pressure and depth is too much is looking at the healed results. If your client's brows are being healed cooler than you expected, cooler than the pigment that you used, that could be because your depth is more than necessary. Your depth is not adjusted to the client's skin thickness, and you're doing the same kind of work on every skin tone, every skin thickness. What do I mean by healing cooler? If you don't know what I mean by healing cooler, it's like you've used a certain pigment, refer to the pigment code you have used. If the pigment in the bottle or even the drawdown looks warmer in comparison to the healed results, for example, you used a pigment that had more of reddish or yellowish tones to it, undertones to it, whereas the healed result looks grayish, blackish, then your depth could be one of the reasons. When we talk about brows, grays, hues of blues, even black are the cooler hues. And if your client is healing on the cooler side despite using a pigment that was warmer than the healed results, your depth could be the reason, and depth needs to be checked.